It's Saturday, so you know what that means. Football and 7-7 Talk Sports. Man, y'all come on in here, man. Let's do this thing. Let's go. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to week 7 of the college football season. It's another beautiful Saturday, and I am your host, Derico Gaither, aka 7-7 Talk Sports. So this week, man, we're going to talk about, as we always do, we're going to start with the college game, and we're going to talk about some very interesting matchups this Saturday. If you're a football fan like I am, hey, this is a great Saturday to be alive. Every Saturday, every day is a great day to be alive, but this is a very beautiful Saturday to be alive. So when I look at our slate of games today, starting with college football, we're going to start this thing off with number 1, Texas, taking on number 18, Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout. It's a little different this year, for those who know, because you have Texas and Oklahoma, who are now both members of the beautiful Southeastern Conference. So, in years past, they battled each other. They were also in the Big 12 and whatnot. So, they battled each other. But this one is going to mean just a little bit more because, as we say in SEC country, when it comes down to the SEC, it just means more. So, yeah, that was a shameless plug. So, y'all forgive me, but I just had to get that on in there. But this is going to be an interesting game this week. Once again, it's going to be, and I know it's the Captain Obvious of the situation, but of course, once again, it's going to be offense versus defense. And so you're going to have Steve Sarkisian's offense, who's going to be led with the return of Quinn Ewers, who set out the last couple of games due to an injury. And but Quinn Ewers has been named the starting quarterback for today's game, and he will be returning. And it's going to be interesting to see how Quinn Ewers is going to match up against Brett Venables' defense. Now, when I had a chance to watch Oklahoma's defense up close and personal when they played Auburn and whatnot, and of course, we saw how that ended. They were able to come into Jordan Hare and make a play late in the ball game. The linebacker Lewis picked off the football, and he was able to return it in for a touchdown. And they walked out of Jordan Hare with a 24-21 win. But I think this week, I think I'm going to have to go with Texas because Texas is a very well-rounded football team. And now with the loss of Alabama with Alabama catching that L last week to Vanderbilt, which I don't think anybody besides personnel, people that either went to the University of Vanderbilt or just Vanderbilt fans saw coming. But Texas now carries the weight of being number 1. And the way how this college football season has shaped up so far, I don't know if that's a gift or a curse right now, just to be honest with you. Because, when you're number 1, then you get knocked off. Because when you look at it, Georgia was number 1. And then what happened? They lost to Alabama. Alabama turns around and they get the number 1 ranking. And then what do? They lose to Vanderbilt. So now, hey, Texas, you're up. So, let's just see, how Texas is going to play today. But I think overall, I just think that Texas is going to be too much offensively. And, Oklahoma does have a true freshman starting at quarterback. I can't think of the young man's name, so y'all please forgive me. But he played well against Auburn. And so this moment, I don't think that this moment is going to be too big for him at all. They're going to try to get him out in the perimeter, have him doing the RPOs, and just let his athleticism sort of take over and whatnot. So I think this game is going to be a lot closer than what some people may think, but you never know with the Red River Shootout, man. I mean, because there's always a chance with some unsung hero coming up out of nowhere. If you remember a few years back when a guy by the name of Caleb Williams, who no one knew anything about, came off the bench and led Oklahoma to a come-from-behind win. And now look at Caleb Williams. He was the number 1 overall pick. So, but I like Texas to win this game. I think it's really going to be kind of high scoring. And But I also like for Texas to do what they need to do to make the plays to win this game in the end. So I'm going to go with Texas over Oklahoma, and Texas will survive being number one at least for a week. The next game I want to jump into, I want to talk about number 4 Penn State going to LA to play USC today. The USC Trojans out there in Southern Cal. And so USC is unranked, but USC, you have Penn State coming into the ball game with a 5-0 record. They're ranked number 4. But you're going up against an unranked USC team and when you look at USC, their season has really been up and down. They are really a few plays away that they honestly could say that USC could be 5-0. They beat LSU to start the year off in Las Vegas and whatnot. And the quarterback, Miller Moss, he played great. But when you look at USC's 2 losses, right? They lost to Michigan in a very, in the first half. You didn't think that USC even knew how to play football if you watched that game in the first half. But then they made a hell of a comeback in the second half. And they came up just short against Michigan. And then last week, when they lost to Minnesota, they had the ball they had a guy who thought he scored, and he was ruled down at the 1-yard line. And then Miller Moss threw an interception in the end zone, and Minnesota was able to get up out of there with a 24-17 victory. So when you look at USC is right there. They are just a couple of plays from being 5-0 themselves. But I think that today's game is going to be, it spells trouble for Penn State, because, looking at it, Penn State, James Franklin has done a phenomenal job as the head coach up there at Penn State. He always has a gritty, tough football team that loves to run the football. They want to hit you with RPOs. They want to hit you in the mouth defensively. But I think that this game is probably just setting up. I'm leaning towards USC because I really believe that this is the game that USC is going to make the plays that they need to make to get over the hump to be able to knock off Penn State. So I'm going to go with my upset special today. My upset special for this one, I'm going to go with USC to upset Penn State and give Penn State their first L on the season. But I'm expecting it to be another good game. So like I said, man, hey, if you're a football fan like I am, hey man, just sit back. Hey, you need to clear your schedule. I'm just going to be honest with you right now. These afternoon games, you really need to clear your schedule, put your feet up, and just have the remote control in your hand or have dual TVs, whatever you got to do to be able to keep your eyes on all these games. And the last game I want to talk about is one I think that everybody's going to have their eye on, and that is what's happening up in Eugene, Oregon, when you have the number 2 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes coming into Eugene to meet up with the number 3 ranked Oregon Ducks. Now, I'm going to tell you something, man. I've never really been a big fan of Ohio State. I respect Ohio State because I low key, I am a Michigan fan as well because I have family members that live in Grand Rapids. But this one right here, man, this is going to be a hell of a game. I really think it's going to be a hell of a game because what I do respect about Ohio State is that Ohio State, them boys can play some defense. So when you look at Ohio State right now, Ohio State is only giving up 6.8 points per game. I want y'all to let that sink in for a minute. In this day and age of college football, Ohio State, right, is giving up 6.8 points per game. And you're going to need defense to win a championship because, like what they say, offense sells tickets, but defense wins championships. So, and then when you have the quarterback, Will Howard, from Ohio State, who's a transfer who played at Kansas State last year. Will Howard is coming in, and so far, Will Howard has thrown for 12 touchdowns against 3 picks. So he's doing a real good job of taking care of the football. And Ohio State loves to run the football. I think a lot of people really, sometimes think that Ohio State is just that type of team that they just going to line you up and they're going to throw the football all over the place. I mean, because when you look at it, what they had, they've had some great wide receivers that have came through Ohio State here within the last few years. So, most notably looking at Marvin Harrison Jr., that's doing his thing as a rookie out there in Arizona. But, Ohio State DNA first, they want to get physical. They want to run the football right down your throat. And I think the addition of Chip Kelly this year as the offensive coordinator to the head coach Ryan Day's staff has paid off some great dividends for them so far. So, you know, Chip Kelly, with his backstory, returning back to Oregon because he was once the head coach at Oregon. So, of course, he's going to want this game more than anybody else to show Oregon that he still should be, the head coach for that, even though Chip Kelly left and went to Philadelphia after he left Oregon. So, and became the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. But at the end of the day, I like Ohio State to win this ball game. I think that they're, and credit to Dan Lanning, the head coach of Oregon. He's doing a really good job with that program up there and whatnot because he wants to use his DNA as an assistant on Kirby Smart's staff while he was there at Georgia. He wants to turn Oregon into what we would call an SEC West type team, right? So, or Pacific West type team. And so, he wants to have Oregon as physical as well, too, and they want to dominate the line of scrimmage. So, I like this ball game, and I think this is going to be an outstanding ball game. I think it's going to be hard hitting. It's going to be very physical and whatnot. And, early, and what I love about college football so far this year, with with all the changes and whatnot that have happened in the different conferences and whatnot, we as college football fans are getting some phenomenal matchups this early in the season. Normally, we don't really start seeing matchups like this until maybe later on here in the month of October, November, as we start heading towards, conference championship play. But man, we've seen some great games so far. So, I think that it's going to be a very highly contested game. But at the end, I like Ohio State to get out of Eugene with a victory. I think Ohio State would just keep it moving because looking at the way how they've been playing, man, hell, they're just waiting for their chance to be number one next. So, but again, I'm going to go with Ohio State over Oregon, and I'm looking forward to it, man. And so that's enough on the college football front because it's not really a lot of games out there that's jumping out at me and everything right now. I think that these are truly the three marquee games, that we're going to see, this weekend and whatnot. And we'll just go with it from there. So now I want to jump over and I want to talk about, some NFL games, a couple of games that are jumping out at me. That's the marquee games, what I think for this upcoming week here in the National Football League. This is week 7 of the college games and everything, but now we're going into week 6 of the NFL season. So the number one game that's jumping out at me right off the bat this week, you have the 4-1 Washington Commanders traveling to Baltimore to take on the 3-2 Baltimore Ravens. Now, I spent a large part of my military service time in the DMV area, right out there in Washington. So, I already know for my my friends and family members that's out there in the DMV area, they are looking forward to this game because you're gonna have Washington traveling to Baltimore, and it's only probably, if anything, maybe an hour drive, if that, depending on how bad the traffic is out there, to get to M&T Bank Stadium. But this matchup is really going to be something because you have, and who I think was, and I told people this, I thought that who I think was the best quarterback that was in this previous year's draft, and that's Jaden Daniels. I know a lot of hoopla, and I've even said it here on the show that Jaden Daniels was the best quarterback that was in this draft. I know a lot of people are very high on Caleb Williams, and it's not knocking Caleb Williams at all. But I just think if I was sitting there in the draft room and I had that number one pick in Chicago, I would have went with Jaden Daniels. Now, trust me, Washington ain't complaining about the fact how Jaden Daniels fell to them in their lap because they love what they're getting. This young man is very poised. He is just, he's balling out of control right now. And when you watch Jaden Daniels on film, when you look at the ball placement, where he's putting the football at, I go back to the Monday night game against Cincinnati on that touchdown pass that he threw to Terry McLaurin. If you look at where the football was placed, he put the ball at the back pylon. And he basically led McLaurin right there through the back pylon where only McLaurin could get it. You see that McLaurin beat the DB, but the DB could not even contest trying to stop the ball at all because of where it was placed. So I love what I see what Jaden Daniels is doing. And then, of course, you're going to go, Jaden Daniels is going up against one of his idols, and that being Lamar Jackson. Of course, we all know what Lamar Jackson brings to the table. He's the reigning unanimous MVP of the league. Baltimore started off, their season has started off a little slow, but then when you look at it now, Baltimore has won 2 straight games. So this one is a really hard one to pick, because conventional wisdom will say, hey, let's go with the unanimous MVP and Lamar Jackson. He's been there, done that. He knows what he needs to do. But my problem, what I'm more so concerned about is Baltimore's defense, because Baltimore's defense doesn't look like they have the same. It's like just something a little bit is missing, because normally, when you think about Baltimore, the first thing that jump out your mind is defense. They're a defensive-minded ball club. They're going to run the football down your throat. They're going to hit you in the mouth. But here lately, it seems like that Baltimore's defense has not been what it once was. I'm not saying they're bad, but I'm just saying they haven't been what they once was. So I'm going to go with the young gun coming into M&T Bank Stadium. And, I expect this to be a high-scoring game. I really do. I think I love what Dan Quinn is doing, the head coach of the Commanders. I love what he's doing with Washington's defense. But I like Washington to get out of here with a victory. But I really think, man, this is going to be I really think this is going to be a very entertaining game. And I know that the stadium is going to be rocking, man. You're going, like I said, it's the battle of the DMV. A lot of bragging rights and whatnot on the table, but you're getting a chance. Jaden Daniels is going to get a chance to go against one of his idols and whatnot. So, he's going to come prepared to play. And I know that Lamar is going to come prepared to play, because Lamar is going to want to show him, hey, bro, I'm still the man here, and you in my house, so you will show respect. So, but I like Washington to win this ball game and whatnot. And, I think I think that is the biggest marquee matchup of this weekend's games on the NFL. Now, a game I want to talk about that a lot of media is going to have their eyes on is what's going to happen Monday night. And that is, you got the Buffalo Bills playing against the New York Jets. So you got 2 ball clubs that you're really trying to. It's been an eventful week, for both ball clubs. So let's start with the Buffalo Bills first. So Buffalo last week, in which I said that Houston was going to beat Buffalo because I thought it was going to be a very close game. But if you watched how the game ended with the Buffalo Bills, Houston was forced to punt the football late. And when they punted the football, they pinned Buffalo basically back within their own 5, inside their own 5. And it was under a minute left to go in the ball game. And, Houston still had, if I'm not mistaken, I think they had 2 timeouts left. What did Buffalo do? Not one time did they run the football. They threw the football on 3 straight pass plays. And every time that ball hit the dirt, what happened? The clock stopped. So Buffalo has to turn around and punt the football right back to Houston, right? So when they punt the football to Houston, Houston comes down, they make a couple of plays, and Houston gets a walk-off 23-20 victory. And so you're asking yourself, what? That's what you're asking yourself while you're watching this, because you're saying to yourself, hell, y'all didn't one time even try to run the football at all to try to milk some clock. Because when you look at it, Houston was more so kind of playing as if like, okay, we're not going to get beat with anything deep. If they want to throw the ball underneath, okay, that's fine. But we're not going to give up anything cheap. And Buffalo just said, okay, we're just going to throw the ball in the dirt. And, we're just going to go with it from there. And so that was interesting. So, it was, Sean McVay Sean McDermott, the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. He had a lot of explaining to do, because it kind of seems like you basically gave away a game, on the road. So, I know that they've looked at situational football. not making those same mistakes and whatnot. And so I know that they're looking forward to try to come back to bounce back because it's a division game, so it's always tough. So now let's talk about this Jet situation. Now, man, listen. I'm gonna say this in the most respectful way possible, right? I am not an Aaron Rodgers fan at all. Let's go ahead and put that on out there, right? What Aaron Rodgers has done on the field, yeah, it's been nothing but short of phenomenal, right? He has a Super Bowl ring. Yes, he does. But I told my brother out there at On the Block with Nick, which y'all should also like, share, and subscribe to as well, On the Block with Nick. I told him because Nick is a diehard Jets fan. I told Nick before they went out and made a run at Aaron Rodgers that this is something that they needed to stay away from. Because if you're the Jets, you have to think about what you did, what lessons you learned before when you courted Brett Favre years ago, right? You brought Brett Favre in, Favre played 1 year there. You got tired of his shenanigans, and then you shipped his ass out to Minnesota, right? So now when you look at Aaron Rodgers, so let's go back to this timeline real quick, right? How this whole thing happened. So Aaron Rodgers was his last couple of years in Green Bay, right? Rodgers, word got out, hey, I want to, I may retire, I might not retire. He started playing the Brett Favre ball games because he wanted to hold, the Green Bay Packers, hostage basically, right? So when there was really strong talk about Aaron Rodgers possibly being traded, right? It was one team that was out there that was all in on the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes. And no, it was not the New York Jets. It was the Denver Broncos. Because Denver said, hey, we got a great defense that ranks top 5 in the league. Our problem is quarterback play, right? We need a quarterback. So, okay. So Denver got all in on the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes. And what did Denver do? They went out and they hired a man by the name of Nathaniel Hackett, who had no head coaching experience. But what was Nathaniel Hackett's claim to fame? Oh, he was Aaron Rodgers' offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach in Green Bay. So if we get Nathaniel Hackett, Aaron Rodgers is going to come on. Now we make it a package deal, right? But what did Aaron Rodgers do? He did all that talking, and he came right back to Green Bay after Green Bay upped the money on the same deal, but just basically took money off the back end and gave him the money now or then at that time, right? Making Aaron Rodgers the highest paid quarterback in the league. So then what does Aaron Rodgers, how does he repay Green Bay? Okay, so what happens is this. Green Bay, then what do? This was during the COVID season, right? Green Bay made it to the NFC Championship game against Tampa, and they ended up losing. They lost to Tom Brady, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went on ahead and won another Super Bowl, right? But if you look at the NFC Championship game, the head coach, Matt LaFleur, it was his first time being a head coach, right? They get to the NFC Championship game. While the season is going on early in the season, Aaron Rodgers threw his wide receivers under the bus. They can't catch the ball. They can't do it. Was everybody else's fault. But when you go back to a pivotal play in that NFC Championship game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, go back and look at that play when it was third down, right? And Rodgers, they were at, I want to say they were at the 8-yard line. And Rodgers, the lane opened up for Aaron Rodgers to take off and run. He could have got the first down because the linebacker, Devin White, at the time when he was a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Devin White dropped back into coverage, right? He was sitting there in the end zone. Rodgers decided that he was not going to take off. He took a step up in the pocket and he tried to force a pass over the middle. The pass was knocked down incomplete. The head coach decides he wants to kick a field goal. What does Rodgers say? Rodgers then comes to the media and said that we should have went for it on fourth down. No, you should have tucked the football down and ran for it when the lane parted like the damn Red Sea. That's what you should have did, Aaron Rodgers. But hey, you can't tell Aaron Rodgers nothing because he's the smartest man on this earth, right? Smartest man ever. So then the very next season, he comes back. This time, the Green Bay Packers play the San Francisco 49ers at home. at Lambeau Field. It's snowing. The San Francisco 49ers are a Bay team, right? They're not used to playing in winter weather, even though it does get cold up there in Northern California, if you've ever been. But then what happened? The San Francisco 49ers beat Aaron Rodgers and at the time the Green Bay Packers without scoring an offensive touchdown. I'm going to say that again. They beat the Green Bay Packers, but they did not score an offensive touchdown. If you remember, San Francisco scored their touchdown off a block punt. That's how they scored their only touchdown in the ball game, right? So now Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, but in the offseason, the Jets flew from New York to California to court Aaron Rodgers because, hey, that's all the Jets needed. That's all they needed. The Jets just needed a quarterback that was going to get them over to the promised land, to take them where they need to go. So then last year, Rodgers gets hurt, first game of the year against Buffalo. He tears his ACL, right? So then here, this offseason, guess what Aaron Rodgers said, everybody? It was Aaron Rodgers who said, hey, you know what? We need to block out all the outside noise, right? Because it's all about winning championships. We need to block out all the outside noise. Nothing else matters. We need to be committed to winning. And I'll be damned, a week later, guess what he did, right? Aaron Rodgers took it upon himself to go to Egypt. What you going to Egypt for? Oh, let me guess. You're going to Egypt to look at the sculptures. That's what you're doing. Because ain't nobody over there in Egypt talking about how to dissect the cover two. Ain't nobody over there in Egypt talking about how to get on the same page with your wide receivers, right? So then you have Robert Saleh, who was a defensive-minded head coach who did an outstanding job at San Francisco before getting this job, right? Because he was a defensive coordinator in San Francisco. He did an outstanding job there. He gets the job with the Jets, and Robert Saleh gets fired. And then Aaron Rodgers, you want to come out and say the very next day, hey, I had nothing to do with this. I had no knowledge. Who do you think you're talking to, dude? It's us as sports fans here. Well, I don't have as much power as people think. You are the franchise quarterback. What are you talking about? But yet again, when you're the smartest man in the room, you can't tell anybody something. Right? Yeah. When you're the smartest man in the room, you can't tell anybody anything, right? So it's a shame that Robert Saleh was fired because him and Aaron Rodgers was never on the same page. Never on the same page, right? But then the owner, Woody Johnson, wants to come out and say, well, Robert Saleh wasn't doing what he needed to do prior. You know, it's not just about since Aaron Rodgers has been here. It's about what hasn't happened, you know, since he's been here. He has a 20-36 record. Well, hell, you drafted Zach Wilson when you had a chance to go get Justin Fields. Come on, man. It's people in the YMCA that can play better than Zach Wilson. And where is Zach Wilson right now? He's the third string quarterback in Denver. He couldn't even beat out the rookie Bo Nix. Are you kidding me right now? But yet, in Jets land, they want to talk about accountability. If y'all were truly seriously about winning a championship up there with the New York Jets and you want to talk about accountability, somebody hold number 8, a.k.a. Aaron Rodgers, accountable for his actions. Because, see, it wasn't the defense that threw 3 picks last week against Minnesota. It wasn't the defense that's not on the same page with the wide receivers. So you fire Robert Saleh, you bring in the new guy, Jeff Ulbrich, who has no head coaching experience, who Robert Saleh hired, who's a defensive-minded guy. And then what do you say? We are going to take the play calling duties away from the offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, but he's still going to be the offensive coordinator. Somebody else is just going to call the plays. Tell me where that makes sense. Because what you're saying to me is that this is still Nathaniel Hackett's offense. Hell, this is still Aaron Rodgers' offense. But somebody else is just going to get in the microphone and just repeat what Nathaniel Hackett is saying. Man, stop playing with me, man. So that's my I know I got off topic, y'all. I'm sorry. So y'all please forgive me. But man, I'm just saying, stop playing with me, man. So this is for my Jets fans out there, this is a must-win for y'all this week. I don't think that you're going to win the ball game. I'm just going to be honest with you because it's just Aaron Rodgers is a shell of himself. So I don't think that y'all are going to win the football game at all. But I think this is a must win. I'm still going to go with Buffalo to win this week because the Jets are they're a mess. They are just a mess. I mean, the defense is doing everything that they can do, but offensively, it just ain't clicking. And you got to start with the quarterback first. So I'm gonna end my rant with that. So those are the two big games for me, man. The one, the huge game with Baltimore and Washington, and the all eyes on me game with the Jets and Buffalo. So now that that's enough for the football slate. I'm gonna switch gears now. I'm gonna talk about the WNBA Finals. And man, I just told y'all last week, yo, the WNBA playoffs has been beautiful basketball to watch. Yo, if y'all didn't watch game 1 of the WNBA Finals with the Minnesota Lynx against the New York Liberty, you missed one of the craziest endings in basketball that I've ever seen. The Lynx were down, and it did not look like that they were going to win this ball game at all. Turnovers happened, big shots were made, and at the end, the Lynx were able to win it 95-93, and they forced overtime. They were able to steal game 1. The Lynx were led by Defensive Player of the Year, Nafisha Collier. She finished the game with 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 assists. And the New York Liberty were led by Jonquel Jones, who finished with Jonquel Jones, who finished with 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 assists. Now I'm gonna tell you something, man. Like it was a beautiful game. It was a hell of a finish. I ain't even gonna lie to you. And we got game 2 that's happening tomorrow at 3:00 in New York. So this is gonna be the Liberty have to win game 2 because it's a best of 5 series. You do not want to go down 0-2 because then meaning you are going to have to go to Minnesota and you're going to have to steal both games in Minnesota. And if anybody knows anything about the WNBA, the Minnesota Lynx, they're just not a happy to be here ball club. They're led by Cheryl Weave, who is the head coach who has, steered them to who's a 4-time WNBA champion head coach. Like she coached Maya Moore, and she coached some of those great Minnesota Lynx teams that have won championships in the past. So I'm for game 2. I'm going to take New York to steal game 2 to take it to Minnesota, and we're all tied 1-1. And then now it becomes a best 2 out of 3. And so I tell you, man, but like I keep saying this to y'all again. Hey, you've got to get into the WNBA. These women are balling. They balling so hard right now. That's the best way to say it. Good physical basketball, just great brands of basketball. So yeah, man. So that's my wrap up and everything for this week. Hey, again, y'all listen here. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate y'all bringing y'all eyeballs to me, bringing your ears. Hey, but bring your friends too, man. Hey, tell them about 7-Seven-TalkSports. Hey, look, I'm taking this thing serious, man. This just ain't just something to be running off at the mouth, as my grandmama would say. This just ain't no who shot John. You know what I mean? If y'all from the South, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. But listen, man, I appreciate all the support. Again, subscribe, like, share. Hit me up, man. I'm not hard to find, man. 7-Seven-TalkSports. Let's talk that sports. Y'all enjoy y'all Saturday and y'all Sunday. Much love, and that's the inspiration, as we always say. Continue to put one foot in front of the other. Do what you need to do. Keep that faith up, and God got the rest. 7-Seven-TalkSports, man. Your boy gone. Dorico Gates. I'm out of here. Get out. Later.